Babe, do you ever find yourself with so many challenges that just won't stop coming? Like, no matter what you do, right? You're faced with one obstacle after another. Like, kahit anong gawin mo, di ba? Sunod-sunod yung pagsubok, yung challenges na parang
Mhm.
malas-malas mo na. Kasi sunod-sunod yung mga nangyayaring hindi maganda sa'yo, di ba? So, puro negative na lang ang nangyayari sa'yo. Tapos, yung bang hindi pa tapos ang isang problema,
Meron na
tapos
naman.
meron na naman, 'di ba? Nangyayari ba yun sa'yo?
Oo naman. Kanino ba naman hindi nangyari yan?
'Di
Siguro
ba?
kung hindi nangyari sa'yo, very exceptional ka. So, if you ever felt overwhelmed by this, kung windang ka na o nawindang ka na, di ka nag-iisa. You're not alone. You're not alone,
Yeah.
Jinky. So, hi, I'm Day.
And I'm Jinky. We're here to show you and share with you how you can have a positive mindset, right? Whenever you are faced with so many challenges. So, di ba ang hirap gawin yun? Now, from the powerful teachings of John Maxwell and The Master Key by Charles Hannell and the Word of God, we will be showing you how not just to survive these moments, but also to thrive through them. When we are faced with, or when we are hit back to back with these challenges, it's easy to fall into a trap of negative thinking, right? But when
Mhm.
we have a growth mindset, we can turn these challenges into opportunities or learning moments. Right? Pag
Mhm.
sunod-sunod na yung mga pagsubok, syempre, hindi naman natin maiwasan maging negative. Pero pag binago naman natin yung pag-iisip natin, isipin na lang natin na baka naman meron lang akong dapat matutunan dito, 'di ba? So, tignan lang natin yung kabutihan na naidudulot ng problemang ito sa atin, right? Kailangan
It's
lang
nice to practice
siguro,
na positive outlook in life, di ba? Kaya,
yes, so mag-practice tayong laging
yes.
makita yung
Hirap
good.
though, but then, to be
Mm,
happier siguro, we have to practice yung positive outlook in life.
exactly. Always look for the positive in every situation you are in. Like in the Bible verse, Romans chapter 8, verse 28, it says, "And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love Him, who have been called according to His purpose." So focus on what you can do, not what you cannot do, right? So for example, like Thomas Edison, he was able to invent the light bulb, right?
Mhm, yeah.
So, but that was after 10,000 mistakes. But, he never thought he was a failure. He said, "I have not failed. I have just
Oo nga.
found 10,000 ways that won't work." So, 'di ba? Alam na niya kung anong hindi dapat gawin, 'di ba? Para makagawa siya ng ilaw.
After 10,000 trials, di ba?
Tries, 'di ba? So hindi siya nag-give up,
Give up.
'di ba?
Yeah.
So ni-reframe niya, binago niya yung mindset niya, 'di
Oo
ba?
oo
Imbis
nga.
na isipin niyang failure siya, inisip niya nagkamali lang ako, hindi ako failure. Nagkamali lang ako 10,000
Oo,
times, pero
yeah.
hindi ako
Dapat
failure.
gano'n talaga ang mindset, 'no? Nagkamali lang.
Oo. Oo, nagkamali lang ako, lahat naman tayo nagkakamali, 'di ba?
Oo.
So, okay lang 'yan kahit paulit-ulit mong, 'di ba, na magkamali kahit marami 'yan, okay lang 'yan. Kasi daw
Hmm,
yung pinaka-successful people in the world daw, sila yung may pinakamaraming mali na ginawa, pinakamaraming mistakes. Pero hindi
mm.
sila tumigil, 'di ba? Hindi sila nagpanega, hindi sila paapekto dun. So, 'di ba, hindi lang sila tumigil hanapin yung tamang solusyon. This illustrates that reframing obstacles, right, to the good, the good it has done to you can lead to innovation and progress. So you can be more productive when you always think about the good these negative things did to you. Dove soap. It was
Mhm. Yan.
actually a mistake in the soap making process where, you know, the the way it was overcooked, instead of throwing away the the soap material, they discovered that the material became what do you call it? More moisturizing soap and a a kind of soap.
Oh, there's another story. Do you know Mary Kay Ash? She's
Oh
actually the
yeah.
founder of Mary Kay Cosmetics. Siya rin,
Mhm.
actually, she was denied of a promotion. Then she decided to leave her job and start her own business. Siguro na-frustrate na siya dahil she was waiting
Mhm.
for her promotion, hindi dumating-dating. So sa inis
Oo.
niya, she quit and started her own business. So by turning her
Mm.
disappointment into determination, she went on to build a billion-dollar empire that empowered countless women. So yung Mary Kay Cosmetics, ano
Oo.
yan, naging number one yan in the US. Talagang number one cosmetic product yan for the longest time.
So when you're faced with a communication breakdown during a stressful time, like for example, in your relationships with your spouse or your children, or maybe your daughters-in-law or sons-in-law, when maybe you disagree with something and one of you says something not nice, or right, you can just reframe your mind as a learning moment to develop better listening and empathy skills. So empathy skills, like for example, when you had maybe somebody said something not nice about you, instead of immediately reacting, right? Because when emotions are high, our usual initial response is
Cons.
to react, right? Or
Mhm.
become defensive. So maybe instead of doing that, maybe you can pause for a moment and breathe deeply, right? So that, right, because it helps calm your immediate response, and it also gives a chance for you to choose what what the right response should be, so that you can be more empathetic and understanding,
Mm. Kasi
right?
sometimes if we're not calm with our answers, parang lalong magka-clash yung ano, lalong we might say something really bad that might hurt the other
Nasty,
person also, di
yeah.
ba? Lalo na if, like what you've said kanina nga na, kung family member yon may masabi ka, di syempre
Mm-mm.
kasamaan pa kayo ng loob, di ba? Yun.
Right.
So sometimes you also have to focus on their perspective. So
Yeah.
empathy starts with making an intentional effort to understand where the other person is coming from.
Mm-mm.
So we have to understand what he might be feeling and why, di ba? Kasi
Correct.
yung some people react talaga like galit ka agad or yung mataas yung boses. So we have to understand bakit ganun siya. Siguro we have to parang investigate a little bakit ganun yung reaction niya. Baka may nangyari sa kanya just recently na kaya yung reaction niya gano'n. So, yun yun. So, you
Mm-mm.
have to know know the baka they're experiencing stress or disappointment or
Mm-mm.
frustration that can be shaping their words yon. Kaya ganun yung reaction. So,
Right.
remember, everyone has a story beneath their reaction. Baka may
Mm-mm.
pinagdadaanan lang, 'di ba? Yun lagi
Exactly.
naman gano'n, eh, may pinagdadaanan.
Pinagdadaanan pala.
So, yun. Sometimes it's okay to ask. So,
Mm-mm.
'wag
Correct.
natin assume. Kasi minsan
Mm-mm.
assumera lang talaga tayo, eh.
Ayaw kasi magtanong.
So, oo, dapat magtanong ka. So, to avoid yung jumping into conclusion about their motives and intentions, 'di ba? So, ask
Mm-mm.
questions like, ano ba? Ano bang may pinagdadaanan ka ba? Or can I help you?
Mm-mm.
Can you help me understand what you're feeling? What's causing you
Mm.
stress? So,
Correct.
it's not bad to ask, di ba?
Correct. Correct.
Kasi baka gusto lang yan ng may mapagsabihan, which we do not know.
Right.
Sometimes questions rooted in curiosity open up space for both parties to clarify
Mm-mm.
and feel understood. So, yung reinforcing John Maxwell's principle that communication is not about you, but about serving and understanding the other person. So, it's not always about you, di ba?
Correct.
Yan.
Correct. So,
Understand the other person.
yeah,
Kung bakit siya gano'n.
you don't need to be defensive, right? So,
Oo.
reflect on your role. Maybe if you're more mature than the other person, right? Because
Yes.
reflection
Oo.
is like, according to John Maxwell, reflection is a growth tool.
Mm.
So when you consider that might have been something in your words or maybe in their words, right? That might have contributed to the tension, owning up to your part can foster an atmosphere of mutual respect, right? And understanding.
O respond with kindness and intentionality rin. So after
Mm-mm.
pausing, listening, and reflecting, choose words that diffuse rather than escalate. So minsan yung mga
Correct.
sasabihin natin is really important kasi 'pag hindi ka mahinahon, yung emotion mo, yung pinanggagalingan mo, sometimes it's hurtful yung mga words na lumalabas sa'tin. So,
Mm-mm.
sometimes we have to be mindful talaga of what we have to say. Kung parang sinabi nga, kung wala kang masasabing maganda, huwag ka na lang magsalita, 'di ba? So,
Right.
frame your response in a way that acknowledges their feelings, even if you don't agree entirely, 'di ba? Kasi 'pag
Mm-mm.
kinontra mo lalong lalong sasabog pa 'yan. So, like, I think
Mm-mm.
this is really important to you and I appreciate your sharing your feelings sa mga pampakalma na words of ano 'yan, assurance that hindi siya nag-iisa, parang gano'n, 'di ba? Na okey lang
Correct.
'yan, yung pinagdadaanan mo. So, this approach reflects John Maxwell's idea of intentional listening, where the goal is connection, not just resolution, 'di ba?
Right.
Yun. So, reframe as a
Exactly.
learning moment. Ano ba yung
Mm.
reframe? Ba't ba natin kailangan mag-reframe? Kasi kailangan yung kung galit na yung tao, sasabayan pa yung galit na, yung bait mo ng galit din, you will clash talaga. So, you have to reframe. Yung pagandahin mo yung sasabihin mo. Though,
Oo.
oo, na hindi lumalabas na you don't agree, di ba? Kasi
Edit
sometimes,
your
sure,
words.
I agree with you, pero meron kang sasabihin na to make him realize kung ano yun, yung mali niya, di ba? So, yan. So, reframe as learning moment. So, remind
Mm.
yourself that each communication breakdown is an opportunity for growth. So,
Mm.
true connection comes from consistently showing understanding and grace, especially when it's challenging. So,
Correct.
embrace these moments as practice for building stronger bonds rooted in
Mm.
respect, empathy, and lasting patience. Yun.
Yes.
You have to be patient.
Yeah.
Tayo, people naman talaga, if they feel na parang, di ba, yung emotion talaga natin kaagad yung pinapakita natin eh. Like, pag may nasabing hindi maganda sa'yo, hindi mo rin maganda yung sasabihin mo. Di ba?
Gantihan lang.
Oo, dapat hindi gano'n. Though, siguro mahirap, pero sometimes if you
Oo.
just calm down or yun, 'di ba like kanina sinabi mo, ano tayo, let's pause first and breathe. Yun.
Correct.
Importante
Correct.
yun. Oo.
Yeah, and we have to be intentional when we want to become understanding, right? Like you
Mm.
mentioned, be intentional. You have to really be aware that you have to reframe your reaction,
Oo.
reframe your
Yeah.
mindset so that, you know, you can become more emphatic, right? Because
Mm.
remember, especially with family and friends, it's not good to cut ties or, right? Sometimes that's what
Oo.
people do. Okay, we'll just cut ties or I'll leave this place. I'll leave all of you.
Magsuot ka na ng kandila. Parang ganyan, 'di ba? Kung
Yeah.
magkumare kayo.
Yeah. Sometimes you want to escape, you want to leave the place, right? But wherever you go, wherever you go, if if we don't reframe our minds, it will be the same thing will happen again.
Mm.
Even with partnerships, with spouses, with married couples, right? Even if you always come to disagreements, if you think the solution is separating, actually finding another partner is actually not a solution if you don't fix yourself first. If you don't fix your mindset first, it will just be the same thing that will happen the next partner, right? Because you didn't fix your mindset.
So,
Right.
a growth mindset isn't just a buzzword, 'di ba? It's
Exactly.
the belief that even in the face of difficulty, we can grow, change, and improve. Reframe challenges not as a roadblock, but a stepping stone for personal growth. In the Bible verse, James chapter 1, verse 2 to 3, it is said, consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance.
Mm-mm.
The advice from the Master Key System, use positive affirmations. Yan.
Correct.
Positive ha, positive
Positive.
statements. Oo. You repeat to yourself like, I am strong. I can handle,
Mm-mm.
we can handle this together. Or we can do
Correct.
this. Oh, di ba?
Mm-mm.
Yun.
Motivate each
Dapat
other.
talaga positive, no, statements, affirmations. Ayun.
Correct.
Saying this often can build confidence and help you feel more capable of overcoming challenges.
Don't give up. Like, for example,
Oh, yeah,
Walt
oo.
Disney, right? When Walt
Mm,
Disney was a kid, when he
oo.
was the first time he was drawing, he drew a face of a flower with a face.
Oo.
And his teacher told him that flowers don't have faces, my dear. But, he still continued drawing things, living things, plants and whatever with faces or running things. Right. And he continued doing that.
Oo.
Instead of thinking that he lacked imagination, he believed in himself, right?
NBA star si Michael Jordan. Ako, di ba?
Oo, okay.
Sabi niya, I have missed more than 9,000 shots in my career. And that is why I succeed. So,
Imagine.
failure, tapos naging successful siya. And kasi, he never gave up. Yun. Jordan's setback
Correct.
on the court didn't stop him, but became a lesson that drove him to
Mm,
helping him become
correct.
one of the greatest basketball player. Gusto ko yan si Michael Jordan eh.
Oo, 'di ba?
This reminds us that obstacles like missed shots are part of the journey to success.
Oo, 'di ba?
Diba?
Missed
Sometimes
shots
we fail
lang.
in order to succeed, di ba? Another one, you and your spouse, yung mga asawa natin, the challenge of supporting our aging parents while managing our own household. Siyempre,
Mm.
hindi mo naman you cannot neglect your parents kasi sila yung nagpaaral sa'yo, nagpalaki sa'yo. And because they're your parents, di ba?
Nagmahal
So,
sa'yo.
oo. Kasi nung bata ka naman, pinalaki ka nila, nagtiis sila, napalakihin ka, kahit matigas ang ulo mo, di ba? Pinagtiyagaan ka nila, di ba? So, instead of feeling overwhelmed, you have to discuss this experience as teaching you patience and teamwork. So, etong ano na to, trial na to, this is for you to be patient. Yon. In
Mm.
facing mas difficult life later on, di ba? Hindi natin alam
Mm.
what's in store for us eh.
Right, right.
Yun, di ba? Hmm.
Mm.
Another one, yung health issues. Di ba?
Mm.
That limit your usual activities. Siyempre, kailangan you have to focus on how you can adopt and find new ways or hobbies that maintain your connection and well-being. Ano, siyempre if someone is sick in your family, ano
Yeah.
yan, yung ugali kasi niya, parang mainitin ang ulo. So, you
Oo.
have to understand where he's coming from. Kasi syempre, meron siyang pain na nararamdaman na hindi niya ma-explain. So, you have to, yung habaan yung pasensya mo.
Like
Kasi
when Ronald, right, your
yeah,
husband got
my
sick.
husband,
So he had to stop
oo.
working, right?
Yeah, when he stopped working, syempre,
Yeah, how
he's just
did he
staying at
take it?
home. 'Di ba? Mahirap sa kanya kasi he used to work eh. So,
Mm,
he's used to
mm.
going out and working. Then suddenly, he had to stop and just stay at home. Siyempre, naiinip siya. So,
Tsaka siya
parang
yung
umiikot
husband,
ang
siya
ulo
yung
niya.
man eh, di ba?
Kasi
Siyempre, di
lalaki,
ba?
di ba? Siyempre, ayaw niya
Lalaki.
nung parang feeling niya wala siyang ginagawa for the family.
Oo.
So, you have to
Oo.
assure you as the more understanding wife, syempre, you have to
Oo.
assure your husband na it's okay, not necessarily kailangan mo mag-work because you're sick.
Mm.
Pero, sinasabi nga niya sa akin, it doesn't mean I can't do anything. Oh yeah, sabi ko, you can do a lot of things while you're at home. So, yun.
Correct.
So, sabi ko, do anything you like. Sabi ko, nasa bahay ka, you call your friends or do something that you think will be beneficial for you, that will yung hindi ka maiinip or yung hindi ka yung parang feeling mo you're kawawa. So yun, yun.
Useless, right?
Oo.
Feeling
Normally
niya
'pag
wala na siyang
ganyan
silbi,
isip,
'di ba?
useless, so yun.
Oo.
And as a wife naman, don't make him
Mm.
feel na wala siyang silbi siyempre.
Oo,
Yun.
correct, correct. Exactly. So sometimes when you find yourself disagreeing frequently about future plans, right?
Mhm,
You can reframe your mindset again, right?
mm.
Like it's a chance to learn more about each other's dreams and plans
Yeah.
also, right? So try to see it's actually not easy, right?
It's not.
It's not
It's
not
not.
not easy. But yeah, like for example, my husband, he loves birds, animals.
Mm.
So even if we don't really like having birds around, we just try to see the good thing in it. Like sometimes we
Yeah.
have birds singing the
Oh,
jingle bells.
oh,
Imagine, where
ba?
did they learn that? Singing the jingle bells, and it's
Oh,
almost
'di ba?
Christmas, and they mastered it. Yeah, that's why we named the bird Happy, because he seems so happy, and
Oh,
the
'di
the
ba?
tone of the jingle bells, it's like he's in a Disney show. you know. So that's just so how we handle it, so that we don't get disappointed because there are birds around. So we just think of being grateful that that we have birds and dogs and to love. And they are
Mm.
lovable in return also. And it also gives my husband pastime. So he
Mm.
can do when he is stressed, he has something to do that makes him happy. So being grateful helps us focus on the good things in life. We just
Mm.
try to think about the good thing that we can be grateful about.
The first step in cultivating a positive mindset is to reframe your thoughts. So, instead of
Yeah.
saying, "Why is this happening to me?" 'Di ba, ganyan tayo eh. Tapos instead of saying that, sabihin natin, "What can I learn from this?" 'Di ba?
Exactly, right.
Sana gano'n kadali 'no?
Oo nga eh.
Oo, talagang practice kailangan talaga.
Practice. Yeah, yeah.
Oo. Oh, this shift can make a world of difference talaga. Changing your
Mm-mm.
perspective from feeling like a victim to becoming a learner or the winner, 'di ba?
Exactly.
Yan.
True.
In the Bible verse, Philippians chapter 4, verse 6, it is stated that do not be anxious about anything. But in every situation, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your request to God. So, yun. So, talagang prayers is really, ano, powerful yan. Kasi,
Exactly.
we only have to ask, di ba? And it will be given.
Ask and it shall be given.
Oo.
Correct.
Talaga.
So focus on what you want, not
Mm-mm.
what you fear.
Yes, oo nga.
Yeah, because if you're fearful, you just focus on all the negatives. So instead of worrying about what could go wrong, focus on what you want to happen. So focus on your dreams. On your dreams. Because when you focus on your dreams, when you do the things that you want, it makes you excited, right? And
Mm.
it encourages positive actions. And
Yeah.
it reduces stress also. So spend time also visualizing what you want, the outcomes that you want. So take a few minutes each day and maybe picture yourself with the good things that you want to happen in your life, so that, you know, that's a better way you can achieve what you want. If you want a happy life, then practice being happy because it helps your mind stay positive. And, once your mind is positive, then you can focus on the good outcomes.
Mm. I remember, Jinky, yung when my husband was diagnosed uh,
Mm.
of a kidney failure.
Oo.
Siyempre tinanong ko, bakit? Bakit nangyayari 'to, 'di ba? Yun yung initial
Mm.
reaction naman natin
Yeah.
talaga. So naisip ko lang siguro, yun nga, what can we learn from this situation? Yun
Correct.
ang naisip ko na lang. So, I cannot dwell on the negative, sabi ko gano'n. Kailangan ipakita ko sa asawa ko na kahit may sakit siya, we have to be positive on all that's happening to us, sabi kong gano'n. Kasi pag
Mm.
pinakita ko na ano, nega ako, magiging nega rin siya yung outlook niya sa buhay, 'di ba? May sakit na
Oo.
nga siya tapos nega pa siya. So ayoko naman na gano'n ang mangyari, 'di ba? Yun naman yung naging
Mm.
struggle ko before. So
Oo.
I was thinking of a way to make the situation a positive situation instead of a negative one. Yun naman.
Ang hirap nun,
Oo, mahirap. Pero kasi ayaw mong papakita yun sa husband mo na
Mm.
nasiraan ka na rin ng loob. Kasi yung loob niya nasira na kasi siya yung may sakit eh, di ba? So yung loob niya sobrang
Oo.
sira na. Kasi parang feeling niya, ano ba, ba't nangyari to sa akin? Parang wala na ba akong silbi or ganyan. So I cannot show
Parang
him
dead
na
end
I'm
na.
disappointed. Siyempre disappointed ako because of what's happening. But then, I cannot show this to my husband kasi siyempre lalo siyang made-depress, 'di ba? And I don't want that to happen to
Mm.
him nung
Oo.
time na yun. Sabi ko, I have to show my husband that I am strong. And
Strong.
sabi kong gano'n na everything is okay and everything will be okay. Yun lang yung inisip ko nun.
Oo.